My mother lifted her glass at the family dinner table and smiled before she spoke. "The greatest mistake of my life," she announced, loud enough for everyone to hear, "was giving birth to Zara." The room went still. Forks stopped moving. She laughed softly, like she had just told a funny joke. My aunt stared at her plate. My cousin looked at the ceiling. I sat very still and let the words land. But this time, something inside me did not break, because she had no idea where she was sitting. The silence lasted only a few seconds, before someone reached for the breadbasket. That was how it always went. Someone would change the subject. Someone would pretend nothing happened. I had watched that routine my entire life. The sting in my chest was familiar. I had felt it since I was old enough to understand words. But tonight it was quieter. Smaller, because the humiliation she thought she was delivering had already lost most of its power over me. I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment where the arguments were loud and the walls were thin. My mother, Donna, had been passed over for a promotion the same month she found out she was pregnant with me. She never let me forget it. Every bad day, every unpaid bill, every disappointment, somehow traced back to my birth. She did not say it every day. But she said it enough that I memorized the exact tone of her voice when she meant it. What she never understood was what those words were doing to me. Not destroying me, but building something. Every time she called me a burden, I went quieter and studied harder. School became the one place I belonged entirely to myself. No one there saw me as a mistake. My teachers saw a focused girl who asked good questions and finished early. I held on to that version of myself like it was the only thing I owned, because for a long time, it was. When I was 17, I applied for a state scholarship without telling her. I did not want her doubt sitting beside me while I filled out the forms. 3 months later, a letter arrived. Full tuition, room and board. I read it 4 times at the mailbox before I went back inside. She looked at it, then at me, and said, "Don't come back expecting me to be impressed." I left for college 8 weeks later. She did not hug me at the door. College cracked my world open. For the first time, I was surrounded by people hungry for the same things I was. Knowledge, opportunity, a life that looked nothing like where they came from. I studied business and finance. I worked part-time jobs and saved carefully. During my second year, a professor introduced me to a group learning about property investment. I stayed after class every week and asked every question I had. Something about it felt like the start of something real. After graduation, I started small. A business loan. A partnership with 2 people I trusted. We bought a struggling guest house, turned it around in 18 months, and sold it for nearly double what we paid. That profit became my foundation. I repeated the process over several years, finding undervalued properties, seeing what others missed, building quietly. I never talked about money. I had grown up watching what happened when people assumed you had nothing. I preferred the advantage of being underestimated. The resort came to my attention through a listing my lawyer forwarded. It was struggling, aging management, outdated systems, dropping bookings, but it sat on beautiful land and was located where tourism was quietly growing again. I toured it twice before making my offer. On the second visit, I noticed a name tag on one of the cleaning staff near the East Corridor. I did not stop walking. I did not react. I processed it the way I had learned to process difficult things, calmly and completely. The name tag read Donna. She was older now, slower on her feet, pushing a cart of towels down the hallway. She did not see me. I was just another woman in a blazer walking through a building she cleaned for a wage. I completed my tour, met with my team, and finalized the purchase 3 weeks later. I brought in new management and began renovations. I made one quiet decision. I would not tell my family what I had bought. Some truths are worth saving for the right moment. The family gathering was my cousin Brianna's idea. She had organized a reunion at a resort. A nice one, she said, and wanted everyone to come. She did not know it was mine. None of them did. I confirmed my attendance and said nothing else. The evening of the event, I arrived early. The general manager, Mr. Adiemi, met me at the entrance to review the arrangements. As I turned to find my seat, I noticed my mother watching from across the room with a frown on her face. I found my seat and greeted my relatives. My mother sat 2 seats away, dressed for the occasion. I recognized the posture, the stiffness she always carried when she felt out of place somewhere nice. During the first course, a junior staff member came to my side and asked quietly if I had reviewed the updated event order. I said yes. My mother watched the exchange without a word. She had no reason yet to understand what she was seeing. But her frown deepened, and she kept watching. She turned back to the table and rejoined the conversation easily. In public, she was always charming and quick. The cruelty only appeared at home or when she felt certain no consequences would follow. As the second course arrived, she glanced at me and joked to Brianna about how I always looked too serious for my own good. The table laughed. I smiled politely. Then Mr. Adeyemi appeared at my shoulder again. This time, he did not lower his voice or pull me aside. He spoke clearly. "Miss Whitaker, I wanted to confirm that the additional seating you requested for the terrace has been arranged." The table went quiet the moment he used that tone, the tone of someone addressing a person who is in charge. My mother's hand stopped above her plate. He nodded respectfully and stepped back. I thanked him and returned to my food. No one spoke for a moment. Then my mother looked at me and said, "Why is he talking to you like that?" "Like what?" I said. She gestured toward the direction Mr. Adeyemi had gone. "Like you're somebody here." My aunt shifted in her seat. My uncle reached for his drink. I set my fork down gently. "He's just doing his job," I said. She stared at me a moment, then turned back to the table and started a new conversation. But I noticed she kept glancing at the staff, at the entrance, at me. Her mind working through something she could not yet name, but could no longer ignore. It was Brianna who pushed further. She leaned toward me and said quietly, "Zara, do you know the people who run this place?" I looked at her. "I know the manager, yes," I said. She blinked. "How?" Before I could answer, Mr. Adeyemi returned with a staff member carrying documents that required my signature before close of business. He explained briefly and waited. I signed each page carefully while the entire table watched in silence. When I looked up, my mother's face had changed. The confidence was completely gone. Brianna said slowly, "Zara, do you work here?" I shook my head. The staff member collected the documents and left. Mr. Adeyemi remained beside my chair. "Is there anything else you need this evening, Miss Whitaker?" I told him we were fine and thanked him. He nodded and walked away. I picked up my fork again. My mother was staring at me with an expression I had never seen on her face. Not anger, not contempt, but something rarer, pure confusion, the kind that comes just before understanding arrives. My uncle asked the question directly. "Zara," he said, "what exactly is your connection to this place?" Every face at the table turned toward me. My mother sat completely still. I took a slow breath. There was no dramatic way to say it, and I had never wanted drama. "I bought this resort about a year ago," I said simply. "It's mine." The table did not move. The silence was heavy and stunned. A different kind of quiet than before. My uncle opened his mouth and said nothing. Brianna said, "You own this whole resort?" I nodded. She looked around the room, the high ceilings, the soft lighting, the staff moving with purpose between tables, then back at me as if seeing me clearly for the first time. I did not look at my mother right away. When I finally did, her face had lost all color. She was staring at the tablecloth. The woman who had laughed into her glass 30 minutes ago now looked very small, very still, like she was waiting for the floor to shift again. The mood at the table changed completely. My relatives asked careful questions, how long I had owned it, what my plans were. I answered honestly and without performance. I was not trying to punish anyone, but I could feel the weight of the evening pressing on my mother. She barely moved. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, softer, slower, stripped of its usual edge. "I didn't know," she said to no one in particular. I did not respond to that. There was nothing useful left to say. By dessert, she had repositioned entirely. She said, "Please," when she asked Brianna to pass something. She asked my aunt about her health gently. Then she looked at me, not with the usual managing look but carefully, like she was recalculating. "You look well, Zara," she said. It was the first kind thing she had said to me in longer than I could remember. I thanked her quietly, but I noticed she had waited until this exact moment to say it. I noticed the timing very clearly. After dinner, while the others moved to the terrace, she came to stand beside me near the window. I'd love to catch up, she said softly. It's been a long time. I looked at her, really looked. She was thinner than she had been, tired around the eyes. I did not feel satisfaction in that. But I heard the question beneath her words. She was not asking to catch up. She was asking what this discovery might mean for her. I had known her my entire life. I understood exactly what she was hoping. I thought about what to say. Part of me had imagined this moment for years, what I would do if the power ever shifted. I had pictured speeches, even tears. But standing there, I felt none of that fire. Only calm. Because the truth was simpler. I had not built my life to get back at her. I had built it to get free of her. And when she called me her greatest mistake tonight, still not knowing where she sat, the last piece of that freedom had arrived quietly, on its own. I'm glad you're doing okay, I told her. I meant it. I did not wish her harm. But she was watching my face for something. A door opening, a sign that success had softened me into forgetting everything. I kept my expression kind but steady. I have a full life. My work keeps me very busy. She nodded slowly, reading between the words. Then she said quietly, I know I wasn't always easy. It was the closest she had ever come to an apology, but closest is not the same as there. I wish you well, Mama, I said, genuinely. She looked up, and for just a second her face softened into something I had not seen since I was very young, something almost like regret. But I had waited too many years for that face to build my life around it now. I touched her arm once, briefly, and stepped away. I did not make a scene. I simply walked back toward the group, back toward the rest of the evening, back toward the life I had built without her permission or her belief. When the gathering ended and the last guests left, I stood alone in the lobby for a few minutes. The resort was quiet. Soft lighting, the sound of staff tidying the dining room, the steady hum of a building that was mine. I had walked into this world as someone's mistake and built it into something no one handed me. She finally saw it that night, but it was never for her to see. The greatest thing I ever did was decide that her words were not the truth, and then spend every year after proving it.